Welcome back to the live podcast version of Ploughing Day 2 at the Agriland stand at 289 here, right in the heart of the ploughing site in Ratheniska. Forgive us, you might hear some noise in the background there. Of course, that's just the PA announcement system here at the ploughing site, just giving out a bit of safety information and so on. So if you hear that in the background, please forgive us. But today on our live podcast, we are joined by Minister of State Pippa Hackett and Minister of State Martin Heydon from the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. Thank you, Ministers, for joining us today on this lovely sunny Wednesday in Ratheniska. Firstly, I might go to yourself. Minister Pippa Hackett, one of your portfolios is for organics, as we all know. Today, a national organics strategy will be launched here at the ploughing. And I suppose, what will that do in terms of a way forward for, number one, organic farmers, and number two, people considering moving into organic farming?
Firstly, it's really exciting to be here. Great crowd here, and I'm sure they're here to listen to us and not just the merchandise. But anyway, look, I think the significance of the strategy really reflects the effort that has gone into the organic sector over the last 4.5 years since this government was formed. We very much made it a priority, and I suppose the importance now that this strategy signals is that it's going to continue to be a priority for future governments. It's very much a priority at the EU level, and in Ireland over the last 4 years, we've seen, a significant increase in not only in the number of farmers farming organically. We've gone from about 1,600 to 5,000 now, but also the area of land under organic production. So I think the hard work that has gone into that from the sector as a whole, and from the state agencies, and from my department, and from government colleagues, is a testament to where we are now and what we can see in the future for organic farming. So I think it's a really exciting time, because as most people know, and organics, I mean, the word I heard 5 years ago was niche. I haven't heard that word referenced in relation to organics since. So it's very much becoming more part of the overall, if you like, offering of agriculture in Ireland. And I think there's an excitement there. There's enthusiasm among the farmers getting involved. There's enthusiasm among food producers and the processors. So I think all in all, it's an exciting time. It's an important piece of the jigsaw in our overall sustainability. Organics delivers for pretty much every box that you might need to tick on the sustainability list. And, we see a younger cohort of farmers coming in, maybe more female farmers. So I think it's the start of something really special.
And what about the market there for organics? I suppose that has come up consistently, and what makes some farmers apprehensive is that, I suppose, if you get into a sector or into an area, no more than any business plan, you want to make sure that the market is there so that you can make it profitable for yourself.
Yeah, you're right, and that has been maybe a criticism of the sector. I might add, from mainly of those people who might not be interested in organics, choose to pick on it, but from the work that Board BIA have been doing over the last couple of years, they've appointed a standalone organic sector manager that we've a state have invested in Board BIA to support that. From between Board BIA and the processors, and any processor I speak to, whether they're beef, sheep, tillage demand, even for animal feed or human food, there is a demand there, and we can fill it. We can fill it domestically and for the European market. I've not met anyone who said, "Oh, I'm a bit worried that we're going to," any of the processors or Board BIA, that we're going to flood the market or anything like that. There is a price. Look, you're not going to be a millionaire out of organic farming, nor are you going to be a millionaire out of any farming enterprise. But it is a sustainable way to do it. You do reduce your input costs. You take back some control on your farm, and that's always something that attracted me to it, and me on my farm. You have a little bit more control there. And I think
you mentioned that before. That was one of the off
and
points.
with that, you're controlling your input costs very much, and you're thinking about next, 6 months down the line or next year what you'll be doing with your field. So with that comes, I suppose, a renewed sense of excitement. And I think, as I said, from farm to fork, there's opportunities the whole way along that supply chain.
And I suppose when we're talking about markets, one of your portfolios within DAFM, Minister Martin Heydon, is new market development. You've just come back from the Far East, where you were there on a trade mission, lauding the merits of all things Irish produce. And it's amazing to see Irish produce on the shelves in South Korean supermarkets, for example. What other potential markets are coming down the line that might give some optimism to farmers, be it whatever sector, dairy or beef, in the near future?
Yes, Stella, look, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour to be here with you in Agriland today. I suppose the way I look at it is the responsibility we have in the Department of Agriculture is to gain access to markets worldwide for all of the food and drink produce that our farmers are producing, that our Irish food companies then sell and look for markets for. If you take the area of Korea, where I visited 18 months ago for St. Patrick's Day to try and help gain market access for our beef at that time, where we have some other produce already there available, you see the success of Flavin Oats and the market that they've carved out there. It really is important. But after much extensive work, we finally got access for beef to Korea. It's a different market than China or Japan. There's a high level of consumption of beef there already. They're only 40% self-sustainable with their own Hanwoo beef. And the majority of what they import is Australian or American. There's no really South American beef there. And they're acutely conscious of a dependency on the Australian beef that could be impacted by drought in the future. So there's a real desire to diversify in their food service element in particular and to grow that market. And the really exciting thing in that area is the fact that it's a population of 50 million people and they have a very similar kind of approach to ourselves. So that opportunity is there, and as well the fact that the access we got eventually, while it took time, was much broader than, let's say, we have in China, which China is very specifically, the spec is below 30 months, boneless frozen. In terms of Korea, it's below 30 months, bone in, bone out, and offal as well, which again, these are markets that would pay substantially for that in that area. But in terms of dairy, in terms of beef of sheep, of pork, of poultry, and fish is a growing area, and then the whole area of Irish whiskey. We were seeing a renaissance in our Irish whiskey sector, where in 1991, this country, we had 4 distilleries. Now we have up on 45, and they're using Irish produce from our farms, and we have the whole tourism benefit here in terms of raising that profile. But the main point I'd make about access is it's not a failure if after a lot of work we gain market access for a certain Irish produce into a certain market and that's not filled. Because what we are doing is offering the widest range of market options for Irish food companies to get the best possible price for farmers' produce that they have produced themselves. Okay. And ultimately, that's what we continue to do to strive, particularly after Brexit, reduce our dependency on the UK market. Because the final point I'd make is our trade is kind of divided 3 ways with our agri-food sector. We export about a third of our produce, like beef and that, to the UK, a third to mainland Europe, and the other third is to the rest of Europe. And we want to diversify. While the UK is a really important market for us, they are open to doing deals with third countries. We need to reduce our dependency on that market and create more opportunities like we have for soft continental cheese and on Europe with the Tirlawn, Bellevue plant and others like that.
I'll go back to you, Minister Hackett, and I'm just conscious of the time now on our podcast today, but Budget 2025 is just around the corner. Yourselves, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil coalition partners devising that budget, and particularly with the environmental side of things, the farmers want to do it. They want to undertake all of these new farming practices and methodologies. So you're not going to tell me, I know, but what can the farmers expect from Budget 2025? Do you think they might be happy?
Look, I would hope so. I mean, we've worked really hard as a team in the department over the last number of years to provide for farmers and to give them options. At the end of the day, we can't force anyone to do anything, but the direction of government is to support sustainable practices. So I would like to see that the organic farming scheme will reopen. We'll be able to support farmers into that. I'd like to see funding for things like multi-species swords and red clover. I mean, they all, again, play a major role in supporting farmers to come off like fossil fuel-based fertilizers. And I think actually President Higgins put it nicely yesterday. I don't know if you heard his opening speech, but he said, and I wrote it down actually at the time, there is a wisdom in respect for nature. And I think people are being more aware of that. I mean, we're in the middle of this challenge now around the derogation and nitrates and water quality. That's all nature at work, and we have to be able to farm within those, as they call them, planetary boundaries. We have to be able to farm in line with nature so we don't damage nature, and if we can nurture it and restore it. So I think any measures that we can support as a government over the next, the remainder of this government and into future governments will be essential really for the whole outlook, I think, for Irish agriculture. But
I think, more than yourself, farming in your own organic system. I mean, I think a lot of farmers would feel that they do work alongside nature themselves. Even, you know, old traditions and like pishogs and things, and how to get the best out of a particular meadow or a particular pasture, how to, you know, understand the weather patterns, how to understand soil. So I think that the basis is already there. Farmers are nearly scientists in many ways themselves, and now it's just encouraging and supporting them to really take on the more modern
I think
practices.
so. I think there's a natural knowledge farmers
Exactly,
have,
yeah.
especially in a farm that's been passed down through generations of, you know, the damp spots. Or,
Yes,
you know,
of course, yeah.
But farmers also see changes in their farms over the decades and over the generations. And you mentioned things like pishogs and different, you know,
That might be a West Ireland term, I don't know,
but you know, but I mean, it's just, I mean, people have seen these things disappear from their farms, and I think there's a value as well in bringing that down through the generations. You know, from a grandparent maybe to a grandson or daughter, that we need to see those things back, and whatever we can do to support that, you know, when we start seeing the reappearance of things that have disappeared from our farms, we know we're starting to do it right. But obviously we have to produce food, and that's what we do greatly in this country. You know, we are an agrarian country, we're renowned for it. So, you know, build on all of those strengths, but, you know, ultimately we do have to make sure nature is still there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Minister Heydon, I might just come back to you on another element of your portfolio, which is the farm safety, I suppose, and health and well-being. We're still seeing accidents around the country. Some of them near misses, some of them, you know, dangerous, and others tragic. And are we doing enough? We're still a very dangerous sector in terms of working in this country. You know, the data would show it's probably the most dangerous sector to work in.
It is, yeah.
And are we doing enough? And particularly, I don't want to focus on the physical things like machinery and being careful, but also the mental health, because farmers are under so much stress as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I've been really keen when I got a farm safety, a farmer mental health and wellbeing budget established within the Department of Agriculture during my term, a budget that will always be there now. Woe betide any politician in the future that tries to cut that or get rid of it. We have it established. I've been able to fund and support a number of local partnership EIP projects that have worked around that area of peer-to-peer support, helping farmers and helping communities identify where farmers are in distress and need help. And I'm really encouraged this week at the ploughing about the amount of times at stalls with the Farmers' Eve services yesterday, different initiatives that are taking place, even different farming organisations having different schemes there, addressing and talking about the issue of farm mental health. I think 5-10 years ago you wouldn't have got that at the ploughing as much.
No,
so we are progressing. Yeah. It's easier to talk about and people to be aware that it's okay not to feel okay and to seek help. On the farm safety side, in terms of this budget, I'm really proud that I've made it easier for farmers to invest in making their farm safer. We have to change the culture, and we are making progress. I'm slow to talk about progress because one fatality is one too many, but 6 fatalities at this time of the year is lower than it would have been in other years. It's still 6 too many, but I do think that we are making inroads on addressing that issue of our culture of risk. But I want to do more. I was really proud to get the 60% TAMS grant for farm safety measures, again, to encourage farmers to make those investments. And I believe there's more we can do in the upcoming budget to, again, incentivise and support farmers who invest in making their farm safer, and particularly in the context of the challenges we have around labour availability, older farmers doing jobs. Yeah. You know, we can make investments on our animal handling facilities and other areas that can make it much easier, and that'll be a key priority for me in the budget.
Perfect. Well, I'm being told here we're running out of time yet again, but thank you very much to Minister Pippa Hackett and Minister Martin Heydon from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine for joining us on our Day 2 Ploughing podcast, live here from the Agriland stand at 289 on row 15. We're going to go back outside to the site again, out into the sunshine, to our team of reporters, but stay tuned to us and we'll be back again shortly.